Welcome. I'm Rob Moyer from the Ocean River Institute, and we're back today to talk about how we can save the planet, the suffering planet that's suffering from climate change, desertification, habitat loss, the natural sufferings that we're doing, not the other events in the news. And with me to talk about how we can do it from our backyards with our own lawns are the Ocean River Institute summer interns. And with me are Bob Maughan. Hi, Bob. And
Howdy.
Bob, tell us where you go to school and where you live in and stuff.
So, my name is Bob Maughan. I go to Plymouth State University in New Hampshire. I'm currently a rising senior, and I study environmental science and policy with a policy focus, and I'm pursuing a certificate in geographic interface systems as well.
Welcome. We're glad you're here.
It's good to be here.
Erin McGill is here. Erin, tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name is Erin McGill. I live in Portland, Connecticut, and I'm a rising junior at Boston College. My major is environmental studies with a concentration in climate change and societal adaptation. And I'm minoring in a program called Managing for Social Impact in the Public Good, and that has a concentration in environmental and economic sustainability.
With that kind of a lineup, you'll never be unemployed because there'll always be work to do. From Cohasset, Montana Cassell. Hello.
Hi, my name is Montana Castle. So I am from Cohasset, Massachusetts. I am a student, a rising junior at Towson University down in Maryland. I am majoring in environmental studies, policy, and management with a minor in public communications. I am also interning at Cohasset Coastal Research Program as I am working for the Mass CED grant program while monitoring bacteria levels in the waterways around me.
So you're actually stepping out into the field, and where are you finding these bacteria to monitor?
So the Cohasset Coastal Research Institute is right in the Inner Harbor. So I paddle out on a kayak across to our Bassings Beach, and I also take water measurements at the Sailing Club, which is right next door. But we also go to Hingham, Weymouth, Scituate, and Hull too.
All in your kayak?
Oh, not me personally on my kayak, but I do the Sailing Club in Bassings Beach in my kayak.
And how's the bacteria? Are they building up this summer or something? Or
so far, we have very little bacteria levels, which means the runoff and the storm waters haven't been doing as bad as a huge impact as it has done in the past. Usually, our beaches are closed down right now due to the high algae levels. So far, so good.
Thank you for the update. Now,
yes.
Also with me is Sophia Arno. Hi, Sophia.
Hi, Rob.
Tell us about. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, my name is Sophia Arano. I live in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I graduated from Clark University's Accelerated Degree Program in 2019, and my focus there was in environmental science and policy. I also went there for undergrad and graduated with a degree in geography and GIS in 2018. And right now I work with Second Generation Energy in Milford, Massachusetts. And I've also worked with the Davie Resource Group with their Asian longhorn beetle extermination project.
Great. So we're going to come back to you for some insect information, but not those longhorn beetles. So we're talking today about our lawns. You know, there's lawns all over town and all over the neighborhoods of Massachusetts. And if you add it all up, there's more than 2,000 square miles of lawns in Massachusetts. And right now, many of those lawns are getting ChemLawn treatments, which means they're getting excess fertilizer, they're getting herbicides, pesticides. Roundup is really deadly in terms of killing the soil organisms and stuff. And our campaign is, if you stop that, then the grass is no longer swimming in nutrients at the surface, and it's able to put down roots into the ground. And as it opens up the ground, the dirt, which is lifeless, becomes soil, which has life in it. And the plants, the grass plants, not only are they growing great lengths of roots, they are actually photosynthesizing, taking carbon out of the air and packing it into black liquid or into liquid carbon that they actually intentionally excrete or exude out through the ends of their root tips to feed all the life that's in the soil, to bring life into the soil. So they're the producers. We're going to turn upside down the food pyramid here and have the grass on top as the producers. And then what? Well, the then what is Aaron's going to tell us about who's up front to receive the excreted carbon compounds, sugars and carbohydrates and stuff that are being pumped into the ground. Aaron?
Yeah. Mycorrhizae are a type of fungi living in the soil, and they take in the carbon given by the plants. They're made up of long, very thin strands called hyphae. The mycorrhizal hyphae are so long that 1 teaspoon can hold half a mile of the fungi. And they're so thin that thousands of hyphae are needed to make up 1 strand of mycorrhizae. Because it's so long, it makes up a massive expanse under a lawn, forming a type of cobweb. It can even be considered an underground highway. And it's called this because the mycorrhizae make up what is called the microbial bridge. Essentially, the fungi intertwines together, connecting all of the grass plants in a lawn. The carbon from a plant's photosynthesis is given in the form of sugars and carbohydrates, and the fungi delivers these to the soil microbes. And on the other end, the bacteria in the soil produce nitrogen, which is a nutrient necessary for plants. The mycorrhizae take up the nitrogen and other important nutrients and minerals, and they take that back to the plants. So basically, the mycorrhizal fungi make up a really important transportation system in the soil to keep lawns healthy. And then this picture that you see is mycorrhizae, and it's used under an electronic microscope because the hyphae that you see, the small strands, are so small it can't be seen with the naked eye. It has to be under an electronic microscope.
Yeah, you were saying that it takes like 1,000 of these little hyphae to put together bundle together 1,000 just to look like a thread.
Yeah.
And they're incredibly long, aren't they?
Yeah, very long.
And they're being so small, it means that they can actually get in between the cells of the plant. So the mycorrhizae, the hyphae of the mycorrhizae are able to touch the cells inside the plant. And the plant, the grass plant, could secrete a chemical that says it needs iron or it needs some mineral. And that chemical message goes out along the highway. And look how big what's this?
Yeah, this is just a massive expanse of the mycorrhizae, and it's, like I said, it's basically a cobweb system. It goes very deep and it's super wide, and there's so many hyphae and mycorrhizae fungi in there.
And so this is a network like the internet where, there could be bacteria just over here that are specializing in the very mineral that the plant needs. And so they pick up on the chemical message and put it back on the highway to take to the place of need. So this microbial bridge is spanning the whole lawn and into your neighbor's lawns and probably around the roots of trees and shrubs and stuff. Unless you put Roundup down, and then one application of Roundup will kill a quarter of that, the top quarter of that mycorrhizae there. So that's cool. Okay, so that's the highway. Then we need a way to, why don't I turn this off first? So the highway needs to pick up the nutrients that isn't, like nitrogen, fixed nitrogen. So who are our workmen creating the nitrogen in this city here, this metropolis of transport and stuff? Bob, tell us more about the fixers of nitrogen.
So bacteria are the microorganisms that are all over your lawn. There are about 8 billion bacteria in a single tablespoon of soil. And bacteria in yards serve two purposes: decomposing organic matter and providing the soil with nutrients, like nitrogen. Organic matter isn't just plant matter, it's also things like insect carcasses or animal dung. And bacteria assist fungus in the decomposition process. This leads into the other purpose of bacteria, which is putting nutrients into the soil. When bacteria consumes matter, it separates the nitrogen from the other nutrients, and when it defecates or dies, it releases nitrogen into the soil. Bacteria can also absorb nitrogen from the atmosphere. Nitrogen may be abundant in the atmosphere, but plants can't use it when it's gas form. Bacteria absorb and they fix the atmospheric nitrogen through their digestive process, and they make it usable in the soil. And the nitrogen that is released enters the microbial bridge, as Aaron and Rob were explaining, and provides nutrients for the entire lawn.
That's amazing. And the bacteria just stay right where they are. So they have to figure out ways to have stuff move over them if they want to, so if they're in our gut or something, we move stuff by them. And so the whole, how do they reach out to so much stuff? It's just remarkable the way they've had different adaptations by different bacteria. They're very hard to, we don't know how many bacteria there are in the world, in the soils of the world, because the bacteria are able to exchange genes laterally with each other. So if you do a DNA analysis, you see one bunch of stuff of 1,000 species in a teaspoon or something. And then you could come back sometime later and there'd be different species because they've exchanged their DNA material. So it's a whole nother world down there in this rhyosphere of life underneath our lawns. And so let's go to the animal kingdom now. Montana, tell us about one of those animals under the ground there.
Yes, so one of those animals are called nematodes. Nematodes are microscopic roundworms that live in the soil. They're one of the many components that is considered like a cleanup crew to help the soil beneath your lawn stay stable and healthy. There are many different types of nematodes, but they're categorized into two different ones. One is called free living, which eat on the fungi and the bacteria. They help recycle the nutrients back into the soil by speeding up the decompositioning process needed by the plant roots above to grow all healthy and strong. And then the other category is called predators. So predators eat on other nematodes and insects, and they're a little vicious, but predator nematodes have a symbiosis relationship with the bacteria that Robert just spoke of. It lives inside the gut of the nematode, and when it goes to eat other nematodes or insects, the bacterium is released to help with the decompositioning process. On the other hand, the free-living nematodes, which eat the fungi and the bacteria, are actually covered in that same type of bacterium, and they carry it somewhat on their back to help decompose the fungi and bacterium within the soil to keep up the process of recycling the nutrients to above.
That's amazing. You've got all these different levels of nematodes. You've got nematodes eating bacteria and fungal bits, maybe plant bits. And then you've got nematodes eating nematodes. And then you've got these regular nematodes that have bacteria in their gut in order to break down the stuff. But then you've got these free living ones, like you said, that have it coated on the outside so that the fungi are using the nematode as their way to get in contact with lots of stuff in the soil. As the nematode squiggles along, those guys go to work at it. They don't hurt the nematode, and they help to increase the available nitrogen for everybody in there, but mostly for the photosynthesizers who are running short on nitrogen and needing that at the surface, the grass plants. Nematodes are cool. Okay, now we come back to Sophie and insects.
70% of the nitrogen in our lawns actually comes from insects' bodies and their poop, actually, which is an interesting point. Springtails, for one, are really small bugs that eat fungus and roots. They act as leaf cutters and they break up grass in really small bits to make it easier to be broken down by bacteria. And they play a really important role in the decomposition of organic materials and the cycling of nutrients. Springtails are so hard to see that you have to actually take a lot of them in a small place to see them clearly, and you can do that by making a trap. To make a springtail trap, you take a small plastic bottle and just add some yeast, rice, and some water in it, and then hide the bottle in a damp place underneath the soil where mold can grow really fast in the bottle. And the springtails should be attracted directly to the mold, and then you can take the bottle out and see them really clearly. There's also termites that dig tunnels in the soil and aerate the soil, and that's really important to bring oxygen directly to the roots, and that's important for root health. And termites also improve drainage of the soil. So there's also grubs, which are just, baby insects, basically, which serve as homes for nematodes that were just explained. And nematodes actually reproduce in the grubs, which does end up killing the grubs, but the grubs do decompose back into the soil and bring nutrients back into there. So there's insect poop as well. And then, as I just mentioned, all insects will eventually die and decay into the soil and bring back nutrients directly where they came from. So, yeah.
That's amazing. So some grubs must pupate into adults so they can reproduce, but an adult insect has so many hundreds of thousands of eggs that the nematodes or whoever kills them, the nematodes can let a few by, and that's all they need to keep the insects, the grub population, coursing through the soils and stuff. That's really neat. We'll have to be back on another show to show people, look at some video of putting the nematode traps into the ground and see what happens when we go looking for them. We'll have to figure out a way to hook up a microscope to our camera, though. That will be tricky. Okay, so that amazing insects. We got two more critters to go. Bob, you get the honors of talking about one of the most bizarre animals in the animal kingdom.
We're talking about tardigrades. Now, tardigrades are tiny organisms that live in water, but not just in big open bodies of water like rivers or lakes. They even live in tiny little droplets of water on grass or between moss and lichen, or even in the soil. Their durability and adaptability is part of the reason why they're in your lawn right now. Now, they're a vital part of the trophic system in your lawn's ecosystem, as they actually eat the nematodes, bacteria, and fungus. And they also absorb gases from the atmosphere. When they die, the gases are released into the soil, providing nutrients to the living creatures in the soil that were otherwise unattainable. Now, they're mysterious and funny-looking creatures. They're only 30 micrometers long, so really small. They look like wrinkled bears, hence the nickname water bears. And what's really cool about them is their durability. They can exist in almost any climate, from volcanoes to the deep sea. Scientists even sent them to space to test the impact that gravity had on them. And to their shock, they weren't affected at all.
Space tardigrades. Yeah, it's amazing the way they live in a drop of water. So for them, they're always underwater. And yet we don't think of water coursing through our soil under the lawn. But that's how small the droplets need be for the tardigrades. Incredible. We're going to have to do a tardigrade safari later on or something. The biggest dudes in the grass ecology of the soil are the earthworms, and they are tunneling by consuming the organic matter. They push their way through the ground, and their tunnels give way for oxygen and air and water to move through the soils. And if you so as they eat the organic matter, they've got like what a bird would call, in a bird you call it a gizzard, which is a pouch with little bits of stone in it. And they grind those stones around the leaf litter to break up those hard cellulose fibers and stuff. And in the process, the little stones wear off bits of mineral that goes into the mash. And then that mash goes into the gut of the worm. And there in the gut, worm's gut, are worm-specific bacteria that are doing the fixing of the nitrogen and the further breaking down of all the different bits, making it, what comes out of worms is called vermiculus, and it is sought after by gardeners because it's so rich in nutrients and ingredients that it's a real contribution back to the soils that the earthworms make. So our whole campaign is to have people stop putting fertilizer on top because, well, if there's too much nitrogen, and there always is when you do that, it kills the nematodes. They can't tolerate much. And then it also means the grass doesn't have to put its roots down, and so it spreads out. It's on the surface there, and it's a very thin grass, and so it is easily eaten by pests, and so the pests move on in because it's easy eating here, and it's not easy eating in a healthy lawn. And then there's spaces between these plants, where the soil becomes dirt because it doesn't go down and feed the soil because it's got plenty of nutrients up top. And so the dirt itself dries and becomes haze, and haze will hold a water drop, and the haze droplets won't come together because of electric charge, so they won't form clouds. They'll basically form this opaque thing in the air that prevents the water from cycling around, and then it can blow off to Los Angeles or somewhere far away. So instead, don't fertilize your lawn. Don't feed it chemicals like Roundup or pesticides. Oh, they tell you, then they come back and say, oh, your grass is very sparse. We'll overseed it, and that'll reinvigorate the lawn, which we just uninvigorated by fertilizing in the first place. So save money, keep your money in your pockets, and stay inside maybe, let the lawn go natural. And if you do that, then you're going to have much more carbon stored in the ground because the plants are actively pumping it into the ground, and it's being transported around by the mycorrhizae. It's being consumed and passed around by all those food pyramids of marauding critters we got down there. And because of the worm action and the termite action that Sophie told us about, lawns are great sponges. They hold a lot of water. So a healthy lawn will hold 6 inches of water, whereas a fertilized lawn won't hold any. It just flashes off. The water moves quickly. It can cause more erosion. Whereas, the state of Iowa used to be all grassland, and now it's 99% corn and soy. And that whole sponge effect is gone from the state, and they're having terrible flood problems because they've destroyed the soil, so it can no longer hold the water and release it slowly. And when the soil releases it into the groundwater, it keeps the groundwater full, and that continues to feed our streams during the summer when otherwise they would go dry. Keeps the water flowing so the salmon and the brook trout can, live in our rivers. So oddly enough, a fish finding cold stream in the summertime will thank you for not fertilizing your lawn because you're helping with the water cycle as well. And so this comes to why the Ocean River Institute, we have a campaign, our Healthy Lawn campaign, where we are asking people to pledge to not put chemicals on their lawns. And when they do that, we're looking for towns that have greatest percentage of homeowners who are pledging to do this. We will give special recognition to. We're talking about prize money, maybe next June or something, but we're trying to incentivize, people all working together because, like I said, there's more than 2,000 square miles in Massachusetts, and if it works in Massachusetts, maybe the other states will follow us. And in this way, we are overcoming all the advertising that the fertilizer industry does about why you have to buy their product, and instead we can have a healthier, restored lawn. But Montana, I went down to Cohasset and talked about this. Gosh, seems like during the winter, I guess. And Cohasset and Montana liked the idea, and so she is interning with us this summer to help to jumpstart the campaign in Cohasset. So Montana, tell us a little bit about how you're going to, how people are going to hear about it, this effort.
Yes, so my first goal in broadcasting the Healthy Lawn Pledge campaign is obviously through social media due to the pandemic. So unfortunately, I can't go door to door and have a friendly face to who's presenting this campaign. But my first step is going through Facebook for my personal one, as well as Cohasset 143, which is like the town's Craigslist. It has 6,000 people and our town's population is 8,000, if that gives you a good idea. And then from there, my hope is to reach out to the Gulf River Association. The Gulf River Association is a group of people who live on the river between Cohasset, Scituate, leading into Marshfield. They own the properties on the waterfront, and the reason why this association was created is because they care about their river and their backyard, as well as having a healthy environment and not allowing their backyards to become a river of trash. So
that's
hopefully
really
we'll
great.
be on the right steps. Yes.
Yes. And Montana and Aaron and Sophie and Bob will also be posting on the Ocean River Institute's Facebook page